The conference hall in Geneva had never hosted visitors quite like these. Ambassador Teclon of the Vrix stood at the center of the room, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. His compound eyes surveyed the assembled human diplomats with what might have been satisfaction. Behind him, representatives from 46 other species waited in careful formation, each one a testament to the diversity of the Galactic Concordat. "People of Earth," Teclon began, his translator device rendering his clicking mandibles into perfectly understandable English. "We come bearing an offer of great significance." The human delegates sat quietly, their faces carefully neutral. Secretary General Maria Santos clasped her hands on the table before her, while General James Mitchell leaned back in his chair with studied casualness. Defense Minister Chen Wei had a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Teclon continued, his voice taking on the formal tones of ceremony. "For 3 of your centuries we have watched your world. We have seen your struggles, your conflicts, your slow climb toward the stars. We have debated long about when the time would be right to make contact." He gestured with one of his forearms, and a holographic display materialized above the table. It showed Earth, then zoomed out to reveal lines of light connecting stars across the galaxy. "Your planet sits upon what we call a hyperspace junction, a crossing of routes that makes this system strategically valuable beyond measure." The human diplomats exchanged quick glances. Several of them were clearly fighting to keep smiles off their faces. "The Galactic Concordat has decided," Teclon announced, "to extend to humanity an offer rarely given to developing civilizations. We offer you our protection." Ambassador Liu from China leaned forward. "Protection from what exactly?" A different alien stepped forward, this one resembling a pillar of softly glowing energy contained within a transparent suit. The Nomathi's voice echoed from speakers mounted on the suite. "From the dangers of the galaxy, there are hostile species, pirates, cosmic phenomena that could sterilize your world in moments. The universe is not safe for the unprepared." "I see," Santos said carefully. "And what would this protection entail?" Teclon seemed pleased by the question. "We would establish a defense station in orbit around your world. Our warships would patrol your system. Any threat approaching Earth would be met with overwhelming force. You would be granted access to our trade networks, but only on safe, protected routes. You would have the shield of the Concordat between you and every danger the cosmos contains." "That sounds generous," General Mitchell said, his tone flat. "What's the catch?" "Catch?" Teclon's translator struggled with the idiom for a moment. "Ah, you mean the terms. They are simple. We require permission to maintain our station. We ask for regular reports on your military capabilities purely for coordination purposes. And we request that you consult with us before any major expansion beyond your moon." Defense Minister Chen's smile grew wider. "And what would you require from us militarily?" Teclon made a gesture that his species used to indicate magnanimous generosity. "Nothing. That is the point of protection. You are a young species, barely capable of reaching your own moon with chemical rockets. Your weapons are primitive. Your understanding of the galaxy is limited. You need contribute nothing to your own defense. We shall handle all threats." The silence that followed was profound. Then from somewhere in the back of the human delegation someone laughed. It was quickly stifled, but the damage was done. Around the table, human faces began to crack. Smiles appeared. Several delegates looked down at their tablets, shoulders shaking. "Is something amusing?" asked a Kalesh warrior, his scales rippling with confusion. The Kalesh were known across the galaxy as one of the finest military species in the Concordat. The idea that anyone would find their offer of protection funny was deeply confusing. General Mitchell cleared his throat. "Let me make sure I understand. You'll defend Earth from any threat. You'll keep hostile aliens away. You'll protect our trade ships. And all we have to do is let you?" "Precisely," Teclon said, clearly pleased that the human was understanding. "You need only accept our protection and allow us to establish our defensive position." "That's it?" Santos asked, leaning forward. "That's the dangerous part?" "Dangerous?" Teclon's mandibles clicked in confusion. "There is no danger in this arrangement for you. That is the entire purpose. We are removing danger from your existence." General Mitchell and Defense Minister Chen locked eyes across the table. Some unspoken communication passed between them, and both men began to grin broadly. "Ambassador Teclon," Santos said, composing herself with visible effort. "We are, of course, honored by this offer. Might we have a few hours to discuss it among ourselves before giving our answer? Of course, Teclon replied. This is a momentous decision. We would not expect an immediate response. The aliens filed out of the conference hall with dignified precision. The moment the doors closed behind them, the room erupted in noise. They have no idea, someone said. Did you see his face when he said we didn't need to contribute anything? Another added. General Mitchell stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the Geneva Lake. They think they're adopting a helpless puppy. They monitored us for 300 years, Chen said, shaking his head in disbelief. How did they miss everything? Santos pulled up a document on her tablet. According to this initial intelligence brief from our xenology team, the Concordate's monitoring was mostly passive. They watched our broadcasts, studied our culture from a distance, but they didn't dig deep. They saw our conflicts and assumed we were primitive because we still fight each other. They saw chemical rockets and thought we had nothing better, Mitchell added. They don't know about Project Heimdall. They don't know about the railgun satellites. They definitely don't know about what we've been building on the dark side of the moon for the last 40 years. Ambassador Liu chuckled. Should we tell them that we've been preparing for hostile first contact since the 1950s? Absolutely not, Santos said, but she was smiling. Let them think they're protecting us. Let them establish their nice defensive station. Let them feel good about sheltering poor primitive humanity. While we do what? Asked a junior diplomat. General Mitchell turned from the window and his grin was predatory. While we figure out how their technology works. While we map their trade routes. While we learn everything we can about this galactic concordate and everyone in it. And then, the junior diplomat pressed. And then, Defense Minister Chen said quietly, we show them what humans do best. We adapt, we learn, we build. And we make sure that nobody ever really needs to protect us because we'll be too dangerous to threaten in the first place. Santos nodded slowly. But for now we accept gratefully. We smile. We play the role of the protected world. And we watch and we learn and we prepare. Prepare for what? The junior diplomat asked. Mitchell's expression grew serious. For the day when something comes along that even the Concordate can't handle. Because if these aliens think the galaxy is dangerous enough that Earth needs protection, then sooner or later, something nasty is going to show up. And when it does, I want humanity to be ready to protect ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, to protect them right back. The room fell quiet as the weight of that statement settled over them. They think they're our guardians, Santos said softly. They have no idea what they just adopted, do they? Outside the window, the first stars were beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Concordate was preparing to shield Earth from the dangers of the cosmos. Down here, humanity was already planning for the day when the roles would reverse. The meeting resumed an hour later. Ambassador Teclon and his delegation returned to find the human representatives waiting with carefully composed expressions of gratitude and relief. The people of Earth, Secretary General Santos announced formally, accept the generous protection of the Galactic Concordate with deep appreciation. Teclon's compound eyes seemed to brighten with satisfaction. He didn't notice the way General Mitchell's jaw tightened, or the glint in Defense Minister Chen's eyes, or the careful way every human in the room avoided looking at each other. The agreement was signed. The Concordate congratulated themselves on extending their benevolent protection to another primitive world. And humanity smiled, and thanked them and quietly began preparing for what would come next. Nobody mentioned the weapons platforms already orbiting Earth in stealth mode. Nobody brought up the fusion drives that had been tested in secret. And absolutely nobody said anything about the fact that humanity had been preparing for alien invasion scenarios for over a century. The Galactic Concordate had offered to protect Earth. Humanity had accepted. And in the way of all great misunderstandings, both sides thought they knew exactly what that meant. They were both wrong. 3 months had passed since the Concordate Defense Station began its orbit around Earth. The massive structure gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of alien protection and advanced technology. Inside, however, things were not going as expected. Observer Kelmesh of the Vrix sat in his monitoring station, staring at his screens with growing horror. Around him, other alien observers went about their duties, but more and more of them wore expressions of deep concern. Those species capable of such expressions anyway. This cannot be accurate. Kelmesh muttered, reviewing his findings for the 5th time. These translations must be wrong. His colleague, a Nomathi named Bright of Purpose, drifted closer. The energy being's glow pulsed with curiosity. What have you found? Kelmesh gestured at his screen. I have been cataloging human entertainment broadcasts as required for our cultural assessment. The categories alone are disturbing. They have entire genres dedicated to war, violence, and conflict. Many species have historical records of their conflicts, Bright of Purpose noted. These are not historical records. Kelmesh clicked his mandibles in distress. These are fiction, entertainment. Humans create elaborate stories about war and watch them for pleasure. They have something called action movies where individuals engage in combat for no purpose other than the enjoyment of viewers. Bright of Purpose's glow dimmed thoughtfully. That is unusual. But perhaps they are simply a violent species who need such outlets. There is more. Kelmesh pulled up another file. They have a genre called horror, stories specifically designed to frighten them, and they seek these out voluntarily, for fun. The energy being was quiet for a long moment. That makes no sense. Why would a species deliberately frighten itself? I have no idea, Kelmesh admitted. But it gets worse. I decided to review their actual history to better understand their fictional violence. I watched their historical documentaries. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Bright of Purpose, I had to stop after 3 rotations. I could not continue. Why? What did you see? Kelmesh's compound eyes seemed to lose focus. They have fought over 20,000 wars in their recorded history. 20,000. They have developed hundreds of different ways to kill each other, and they document it all in precise detail, preserving every battle, every weapon, every strategy. Elsewhere on the station, a very different conversation was taking place. Commander Rathgar of the Kalesh stood in the training room, watching a recording that a human liaison had provided. The Kalesh were warriors, proud of their martial traditions spanning 10,000 years. Rathgar had fought in 17 campaigns and earned 43 battle honors. The video showed something humans called World War II. For the 3rd time, Rathgar watched in silence. When it ended, he simply stood there. His second-in-command, a younger Kalesh named Tevrin, approached cautiously. Commander, are you well? I am reconsidering our entire understanding of warfare, Rathgar said quietly. That conflict lasted 6 years. 6 years of continuous combat across their entire planet. The death count was 55 million. Tevrin's scales rippled with shock. That is more than the total population of some concorded worlds. And it was only one of their global conflicts, Rathgar continued. They have had 2 such wars, hundreds of smaller ones. Tevrin, the humans developed weapons during that war that could destroy cities in single strikes. Atomic bombs, they called them. They used 2 on their own kind and have been building more powerful versions ever since. Surely that was their peak of violence, Tevrin suggested hopefully. They have evolved beyond such things now. Rathgar pulled up another video. This is from last week. A human sporting event called Mixed Martial Arts. 2 individuals enter an arena and fight hand-to-hand until one cannot continue. Millions of humans watch this for entertainment. That seems consistent with warrior culture, Tevrin offered. The human who sent me this recording said it was a mild sport, Rathgar said. He suggested I not watch something called ice hockey if I found this disturbing. Back in the observation center, a new crisis was developing. A xenobiologist named Myrthos, from the aquatic dolphin species, had discovered something that required immediate reporting to Concordat High Command. With respect, Ambassador Teclon said when Myrthos brought him the findings, "You must be mistaken. Earth is classified as a Category 4 world. Garden planet, comfortable, that is why we chose it for protection. The classification is wrong," Myrthos insisted, his translator voice tight with urgency. "I have been reviewing the actual planetary data." "Ambassador, Earth is a death world." Teclon's mandibles froze mid-click. "Explain." Myrthos pulled up charts and data. "The gravity is 1.3 times what most concordate species consider standard. Humans evolved in that crushing weight. Their bones, their muscles, everything about them developed under pressure that would cripple most of us within days. That alone does not make a death world," Teclon protested. "There is more. Their atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which is highly reactive and corrosive. Their oceans are saltwater, toxic to most species. Their planet is home to millions of microorganisms, many of which would be lethal to us. The humans have entire systems in their bodies dedicated to fighting these organisms constantly. Many planets have hostile microlife, Teclon argued, but his voice was weaker now. Their fauna, Myrthos continued relentlessly, large predators that can run faster than most species' vehicles. Insects that inject paralyzing venoms, plants that cause painful reactions on contact, and the weather, Ambassador. The weather. Hurricane winds that can level structures. Electrical storms with enough power to destroy our equipment. Temperature ranges that would kill most concordate species. Teclon sat down heavily. How do the humans survive? They do not merely survive, Myrthos said. They thrived. They conquered their planet. They tamed it, and all of this explains something else I discovered. What? Humans evolved as persistence predators. They are pursuit hunters. They would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Even now, humans can run for hours without stopping. Most of our species cannot run for more than minutes. Teclon was silent for a long time. What else? Myrthos hesitated. They are also pack-bonding species. They form intense emotional connections not just with their own kind but with other species. Ambassador, they have domesticated several other species on their planet, made them into companions. This drive to bond and protect is fundamental to their psychology. Is that dangerous? It means, Myrthos said carefully, that if they decide we are part of their pack, they will defend us with the same ferocity they defend their own, whether we want them to or not. In another section of the station, Engineer First Class Kelthor was having his own revelation. He had been assigned to work with human engineers on integrating some Earth-based communication systems with concordate technology. What he discovered made him question everything. Your rockets, he said to the human engineer, a woman named Sarah Chen. They work by controlled explosions? Well, yes, Sarah said cheerfully. Rapid oxidization of fuel. Same principle as combustion engines. You don't use combustion? No, Kelthor said faintly. We use gravitic drives. We manipulate space-time. We would never build a vessel that operated by exploding fuel beneath it. Why not? It works great. Good thrust-to-weight ratio once you get the engineering right. Because it is insane, Kelthor said. You are riding barely contained explosions into space, Sarah laughed. When you put it that way, it does sound a bit crazy. But hey, it got us to the moon 50 years before you guys showed up. Speaking of which, want to see the new ion drive we've been working on? Kelthor followed her, feeling a growing sense of dread. If humans had developed space travel by sitting on top of explosives, what would they create when they had access to concordate technology? The reports began flooding into Concordate High Command at the end of the third month. Each one added another piece to a disturbing picture. Humans had made friends with the Nomathi by sharing something called memes. Information packets designed to spread ideas through humor and absurdity. The Nomathi, who had been isolationist for millennia, were now actively engaging with humans. Human civilians were volunteering for hazardous repairs on the station exterior. They seemed to find danger exciting rather than frightening. The Kelesh guard animals, massive creatures bred for intimidation and trained to terrify potential threats, had somehow bonded with human maintenance workers. One beast named Fury now reportedly waited by an airlock every day for a human named Mike to arrive and scratch behind its ears. Perhaps most disturbing, humans were already reverse engineering concordate technology. Not aggressively or secretly, but openly with cheerful enthusiasm. They asked questions, took notes, and filed away every bit of knowledge they gained. Ambassador Teclon compiled all the reports and sent a single message to Concordate High Command. It was brief and to the point. We have not protected Earth, we have given them a reason to leave it, and I fear we will not be able to stop what comes next. He attached all the data, all the cultural assessments, all the disturbing findings about human psychology and capability. Then he went to the observation deck and looked down at Earth, spinning peacefully below. Somewhere down there, billions of humans were going about their lives. Learning, building, preparing. Teclon had. The warning came through standard concordate channels at Oro 400 station time. A Zaroth raiding fleet had been detected in the outer system. 12 warships on an intercept course for Earth. Ambassador Teclon rushed to the command center, his sleep cycle forgotten. Commander Rathgar was already there, studying tactical displays with his characteristic intensity. Status? Teclon demanded. Zaroth raiders, as reported. Rathgar said. 12 vessels, standard pirate configuration. They ignored our hails and our warnings about Earth being under concorded protection. They dare challenge us? Teklon's mandibles clicked with anger. The Zeroth were known pirates, opportunistic raiders who preyed on undefended worlds, but they usually ran when faced with concordate warships. They seem to think we are bluffing, Rathgar said, or they believe Earth itself is defenseless and worth the risk. Launch our patrol ships, Teklon ordered. Full defensive formation. Show them we are serious. Alarms began sounding throughout the station as the Concordate Defense Force mobilized. 4 heavy cruisers and 6 patrol craft launched from the station's bays, moving to intercept the incoming raiders. In the command center, Teklon opened a channel to Earth's Defense Coordination Center. A human face appeared on screen. General Mitchell looking alert despite the early hour. General, we have a situation, Teklon began. Hostile raiders approaching. We are moving to intercept. There is no need for alarm. We will handle this. Mitchell's expression was unreadable.
How many hostiles?
12 vessels. Zeroth pirates. They are no match for our forces. Good to know, Mitchell said. Then he paused. Ambassador, I'm obligated to inform you that our defense satellites are tracking the raiders as well. We'll keep our weapons locked but not fired unless necessary. Teklon blinked in surprise. Defense satellites. I was not aware Earth had such systems. Oh, we have a few things in orbit, Mitchell said casually. Nothing major. We'll let you handle this, but we like to keep an eye on our neighborhood, you know. Before Teklon could respond, the tactical officer interrupted. Ambassador, the human defense satellites are powering up. I'm reading energy signatures from... By the ancestors, I'm reading energy signatures from over 300 platforms. 300? Teklon spun back to the screen. General, what is the meaning of this? Mitchell's expression remained calm. Like I said, we keep an eye on our neighborhood. Those platforms have been up there a while. Mostly watching. But since we have visitors, they're going to active status. Just a precaution. The tactical display updated, and Teklon felt his internal organs constrict. Hundreds of red dots appeared around Earth, marking previously undetected weapons platforms. They had been there all along, hidden, silent, waiting. How long have those been there? Teklon whispered. Some of them. About 40 years, Mitchell said. We add more every year. You know us humans. We like to be prepared. On the display, the Zeroth fleet was closing. Rathgar's ships moved into intercept position, weapons charged, shields up. The Concordate forces were ready. Then everything happened at once. The Zeroth ships opened fire first, their weapons lancing out toward the Concordate vessels. But before Rathgar could return fire, space itself seemed to light up. The human defense platforms opened up with weapons the Concordate had never seen before. Streams of metal moving at impossible speeds. Railguns, the human tactical officer called them. Magnetic accelerators firing slugs of tungsten at relativistic velocities. The rounds tore through space faster than most shields could compensate for. 2 Zeroth ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by the kinetic impacts. Another 3 took heavy damage in the first seconds. Hold fire, Rathgar ordered his ships. Human forces, you are in our firing solution. Copy that, Commander, a new human voice said over the channel. This is Captain Rodriguez, Earth Defense Force. We have the angle. Maintaining fire. More weapons platforms fired. Laser batteries, missile systems, and stranger weapons that seemed to bend space itself. The Zeroth fleet broke formation, trying to scatter. But the humans had positioned their satellites in layers throughout Earth's orbit. There was nowhere to run. By the spirits, Rathgar breathed. They planned this. They have been planning this for decades. 3 more Zeroth ships went dark, crippled by the sustained barrage. The remaining vessels tried to retreat, but then something new appeared on the tactical display. Ships. Human ships, but not the primitive chemical rockets the Concordate expected. These were military vessels, sleek and dangerous, accelerating at rates that should have been impossible for human technology. General, Teklon said, his voice barely functioning. What are those? EDF fleet, Mitchell said. Earth Defense Force, we've had them on standby for a while. Figured if aliens existed, they might not all be friendly. Looks like we were right. The human warships closed on the fleeing Zeroth vessels with frightening speed. They were smaller than Concordate ships, but they moved with precision and purpose. Formation flying that spoke of countless hours of practice. Concordate Station, this is Captain Rodriguez. The human voice came again. We're going to try something. Hold position and keep your people safe. Try what? Rathgar demanded. The answer came in action rather than words. The human ships did not destroy the remaining Xeroth vessels. Instead, they swarmed them. Small craft launched from the warships, boarding pods moving fast, using some kind of magnetic propulsion to attach to the pirate hulls. They are boarding, Rathgar said in disbelief. They are boarding enemy vessels during active combat. The Concordat watched as human marines breached the Xeroth ships. Camera feeds from the human forces showed armored soldiers cutting through hulls with plasma torches, entering the ships, engaging in close-quarters combat. It was brutal, efficient, and over quickly. 7 minutes after the engagement began, it was done. 2 Xeroth ships destroyed completely. 9 captured, their crews subdued by human boarding parties. 1 escaped, jumping to FTL at the edge of the system. The silence in the Concordat command center was absolute. Captain Rodriguez's voice broke it. Concordat Station, Earth Defense Force. Engagement concluded. We have control of 9 enemy vessels. No human casualties. Minor damage to EDF destroyer Adamant. Thanks for the backup, but we had this one. Teclon found his voice. You captured 9 warships. Yes, sir. We figured if they were coming to attack us, their ships and technology would be useful to study. No sense wasting good hardware. You boarded enemy vessels, Rathgar said, his tone odd, during combat. Standard boarding action, Rodriguez confirmed. Marines went in through hull breaches. Some resistance, but nothing our people couldn't handle. We've been training for this scenario for decades. Decades, Teclon repeated numbly. Well, sure, Rodriguez said, as if it were obvious. First rule of Earth defense, assume hostile contact, prepare accordingly. We've had various response plans ready since the 1950s. Just kept updating them as our technology improved. General Mitchell appeared on screen again. Ambassador, appreciate you moving to intercept. Your ships made a good show of force, but I think you can see now that Earth isn't exactly defenseless. Defenseless, Teclon said. No, I can see that. We'll coordinate with your people on securing the captured vessels, Mitchell continued. And we should probably have a longer conversation about our respective military capabilities. Seems like we had some information gaps. After the channel closed, Teclon and Rathgar stood in silence, watching as human vessels moved to secure their prizes. The captured Xeroth ships were being towed toward the moon, where human engineers were probably already preparing to take them apart and learn everything they could. Commander, Teclon said finally, what is your assessment? Rathgar took a long time to answer. The Kalesh warrior had spent his entire life studying combat. He had fought in campaigns across 20 systems. He had earned every honor his people could bestow. My assessment, he said slowly, is that we made a fundamental error. We thought we were protecting a primitive species. We did not consider that a species could be technologically young but strategically sophisticated. Explain. They have been preparing for hostile alien contact for a century, Rathgar said. They built weapons in secret. They positioned satellites throughout their orbit. They trained military forces for combat scenarios they had never encountered. They did all of this based purely on the theoretical possibility that someone might attack them. That level of paranoia is unusual, Teclon observed. Is it paranoia if they were proven right? Rathgar countered. The Xeroth attacked, and the humans were ready. Not just ready, they dominated. They destroyed 2 ships, captured 9, and did it in 7 minutes. My forces never fired a shot. Teclon moved to the observation window, looking down at Earth. Somewhere down there in hidden facilities, humans were already studying Xeroth technology, learning, adapting, adding new capabilities to their arsenal. We offered them protection, Teclon said quietly. Yes, Rathgar agreed, but I think we need to reconsider what that word means. They do not need us to defend them. They never did. Then what have we done? Rathgar was quiet for a long moment. I think we have given... The emergency session of the Galactic Concordat Council convened 48 hours after the incident with the Xeroth raiders. Representatives from all 47 member species gathered in the Great Chamber on the capital world of Concordat Prime. The mood was tense. Ambassador Teclon stood before them, presenting his report. Behind him, holographic displays showed the battle. The captured ships, and the extensive analysis of human capabilities that his team had compiled. In summary, Teclon concluded, humanity is not what we believe them to be. They are far more capable, far more prepared, and far more dangerous than our initial assessments indicated. Council Speaker Morveth, an elderly Vrix who had led the Concordat for 30 years, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. You recommend we dissolve the protection agreement? I recommend we seriously consider it, Teclon said. Before the situation escalates further, a representative from the aquatic delphin species raised a fin. On what grounds? They accepted our protection. They have not violated the agreement. They concealed military capabilities, another council member argued. Hundreds of weapons platforms. An entire fleet of warships. That is deception, is it? Bright of Purpose drifted forward, the Namathi's glow pulsing with measured thought. We never asked them to disclose their defenses. We assumed they had none worth mentioning. That was our error, not their deception. The Nomathi defends them, observed a Kalesh council member with some surprise. I do not defend or accuse, Bright of Purpose replied. I merely state facts. The humans have been honest in all their direct dealings with us. They simply did not volunteer information we never requested. Council Speaker Morveth gestured for order. Let us address the core question. Is humanity a threat to the Concordat? The chamber erupted in debate. Some species argued that humans were clearly aggressive and should be quarantined. Others pointed out that humanity had only defended themselves against actual pirates. Still others wondered if the Concordat might benefit from having such capable allies. If I may, Rathgar stood, his scales reflecting the chamber lights. I have fought in 17 campaigns. I have studied warfare for my entire life, and I must tell you that what I saw humans do in 7 minutes was more impressive than many species accomplish in 7 days. You praise their violence? Someone challenged. I acknowledge their effectiveness, Rathgar corrected. There is a difference. These are not mindless berserkers. They planned, they executed, they adapted. They used minimal force necessary to achieve maximum results. That is not violence. That is military excellence. They boarded ships during active combat, another council member protested. That is incredibly dangerous. Yes, Rathgar agreed. And they did it anyway. That tells us something important about human psychology. They are willing to accept risk that most of us would consider unacceptable. They do not fear danger the way we do. They simply plan for it and execute anyway. Teclon pulled up another set of data. There is more you should know. Since we arrived, humans have been studying us. Not secretly, not maliciously, but constantly. They ask questions about everything. They take notes. They file reports. They are learning about galactic civilization at an extraordinary rate. That seems positive, Bright of Purpose observed. It would be, Teclon said, if we were certain of their intentions. But consider this. They have also been making friends. Our own guard animals have bonded with human workers. The Nomathi, who have been isolationists for millennia, now exchange what humans call memes with human civilians. Human volunteers have integrated into every department of our station. You describe cultural exchange, Morveth said. This is normal when species make contact. The speed is not normal, Teclon insisted. And neither is the scope. Ambassador, humans do not simply make friends. They adopt. They pack bond. Once they decide someone is part of their group, they defend that person with remarkable intensity. Again, that sounds positive, someone said. Until you realize what it means, Rathgar added. If humans decide the Concordat is their pack, they will defend us whether we want them to or not. And they will do it with the same ferocity they showed the Zaroth. The chamber fell quiet as that implication sank in. Then a new voice spoke. Representative Jalkrin of the Salathi, a species known for economic rather than military power. Perhaps we are looking at this wrong. We came to Earth offering protection. We assumed we would be giving more than we received. But what if this arrangement actually benefits us? Explain, Morveth said. Humans defeated 9 Zaroth ships in 7 minutes. They did it with technology they developed independently. Imagine what they could do with access to Concordat knowledge. Imagine them as allies instead of protégés. That is dangerous thinking, someone warned. More dangerous than making enemies of them? Jalkrin countered. If we dissolve the protection agreement now, after they defended themselves successfully, we insult them. We tell them we are afraid. That makes us look weak. Worse, it makes us look like we were dishonest about our offer of protection. The debate continued for hours. Reports were examined. Evidence was reviewed. Arguments were made from every possible angle. Then, in the middle of the discussion, an alarm sounded. A priority message from the frontier. Council Speaker Morveth read it and his mandibles froze. "What is it?" Teklon asked. "The Zeroth homeworld has launched a fleet," Morveth said quietly. "Revenge for the losses at Earth, 200 warships. They are heading for the Sol system." The chamber erupted in chaos. 200 ships was a massive force. The Concordat could match it, but it would take weeks to mobilize their fleet from across known space. Earth was 3 days away at maximum FTL. "We must send what forces we can," someone said. "Even if we cannot stop them all, we can help." Teklon was already opening a channel to Earth. General Mitchell's face appeared on the communication display, projected large enough for the entire council to see. "General," Teklon said urgently, "we have received intelligence. The Zeroth are sending a large fleet to attack Earth. 200 warships. We are mobilizing our forces, but it will take time. We recommend you begin evacuation procedures immediately." The council watched Mitchell's face. They expected fear, panic, desperate pleas for help. Instead, the human smiled. 200 ships, you said?" Mitchell asked calmly. "Yes, this is a serious threat, General. Perhaps the most serious threat your planet has ever faced." "Ambassador," Mitchell said, "I appreciate the heads up. But we've got this. We would appreciate backup for salvage operations afterward, though. 200 ships is a lot of hardware to process." The council chamber went silent. Every representative stared at the display in disbelief. "General," Teklon said carefully, "perhaps you did not understand. 200 warships. Your defense fleet has what, 89 vessels? 93, actually," Mitchell corrected. "We launched 4 more this morning. And yes, Ambassador, I understand the numbers. We've been running these scenarios since you first arrived. Honestly, we expected something like this after we captured those Zeroth ships." "You expected this?" Morveth asked, speaking directly to the human for the first time. "Of course," Mitchell said. "You humiliate pirates, they come back with friends. Basic strategic thinking. So we prepared." "How can you possibly prepare for a force more than twice your size?" someone demanded. Mitchell's smile widened. "Ambassador Teklon, do you remember when I mentioned we like to be prepared?" "Yes," Teklon said weakly. "Well, those 93 ships, that is our response fleet. The public one. The one we wanted the Zeroth to know about." Mitchell paused. "But we've been building in secret for a long time. You know how humans are, paranoid, always assuming the worst, always planning for the day someone comes at us with overwhelming force." "What are you saying?" Rathgar demanded, leaning forward. "I'm saying that we have significantly more than 93 ships," Mitchell said. "And we have weapon systems that we haven't deployed yet. And we have strategies for exactly this kind of situation. We've been wargaming it for decades. How many ships do you actually have?" Morveth asked. "Enough," Mitchell said simply. "And they are not the primitive chemical rockets you saw 3 months ago. We have been testing new drive systems based on what we learned from you and from the captured Zeroth vessels. Our engineers are very good at reverse engineering, Ambassador." "Very good." Teklon felt something cold settle in his core. "You built new ships in 3 months?" "Built some. Upgraded others. We had the frameworks ready. We just needed to see how galactic technology worked to make the final improvements." Mitchell shrugged. "Like I said, paranoid. But it turns out paranoia pays off when someone actually does attack you." "The Zeroth fleet will arrive in 3 days," Morveth said. "Will you be ready?" "We've been ready for 50 years, Mitchell replied. "We just didn't have anyone to use it on until now." The channel closed. The council sat in stunned silence. Finally, Jalkrin spoke. "I move that we maintain the protection agreement with Earth." "On what grounds?" someone asked. "On the grounds that dissolving it would be incredibly foolish," Jalkrin said bluntly. "They just told us they have been preparing for interstellar warfare for half a century. They have been building ships and weapons in secret. They reverse-engineered our technology and the Zeroth technology in 3 months, and they are about to face a fleet of 200 ships with what they call confidence. The Zeroth fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system exactly 3 days after launching from their homeworld. 200 warships arranged in a formation designed for overwhelming assault. They expected to find a frightened planet, perhaps some scattered Concordat vessels, and certainly an easy victory. What they found instead was a mystery. Where are the defenders? Warlord Kresh demanded from his flagship. The massive Zeroth commander studied his tactical displays with growing confusion. Where are their ships? Scans show minimal activity around the planet, his tactical officer reported. The Concordate station is there. Their patrol ships are in formation, but the human fleet is not visible. Are they hiding on the far side of their star? Kresh wondered. Do they think that will save them? Unknown, Warlord. But we are detecting something strange. There are objects throughout the system. Thousands of them. They appear to be waiting. Satellites? Kresh laughed. They think orbital platforms can stop us. We are 200 strong. Forward fleet, advance. Let us teach these humans what happens when you humiliate the Zeroth. The fleet began its advance toward Earth. 60 ships in the vanguard, 70 in the main body, 70 in reserve. It was overkill for a single planet. But Kresh wanted to send a message. Nobody captured Zeroth vessels and lived to brag about it. Aboard the Concordate station, Ambassador Teclon watched the approaching fleet with mounting dread. Around him, his staff worked frantically to coordinate with the minimal Concordate forces that had arrived. 12 ships total. Barely enough to make a difference. Where are the humans? Teclon demanded. Their fleet should be here. We have received no communication from Earth Defense Command, an officer reported. The human ships are not at their usual positions. Are they evacuating? Someone asked hopefully. Hrathgar stood at the tactical display, studying it with intense focus. No, they are not evacuating. They are positioning. Look at these satellite readings. The distribution is not defensive. It is predatory. What do you mean? Humans evolved as ambush hunters, Hrathgar said quietly. Persistence predators who could also strike from concealment. They are not running. They are setting a trap. On Earth, in a command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Mitchell watched his displays with calm focus. Around him, officers from every branch of Earth's military worked in coordinated silence. Years of preparation had led to this moment. Zeroth fleet has crossed the outer marker, an officer reported. They're advancing in standard formation. 60 ships in the vanguard. Phase 1 positions, Mitchell asked. All ships in position and holding stealth. Power at minimum. They have no idea we are here. Mitchell nodded. Then let's show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Initiate Project Talos. Across the Sol system, carefully positioned ships received the command. They had been waiting in the dark, powered down, invisible to Zeroth sensors. Now they activated. The Zeroth vanguard never saw it coming. Space itself seemed to tear open as human vessels jumped in using FTL drives. Not from distant positions, from point-blank range. Less than 5 kilometers from Zeroth ships, the missiles launched immediately. These were not ordinary missiles. Project Talos had been in development for 40 years. Ever since humans had first theorized that FTL travel might be possible, they were FTL-capable weapons that could jump short distances, appearing inside enemy defensive perimeters. 16 Zeroth ships were destroyed in the first 15 seconds. Contact, the Zeroth tactical officer screamed. Ships appearing from nowhere. We have multiple hits. Vanguard fleet is taking heavy casualties. Warlord Kresh stared at his displays in disbelief. How did they get so close? Unknown. They are using some kind of jump technology. Short-range FTL. Our sensors never detected them. The human fleet revealed itself fully now. Not 93 ships. Not even 100. 147 vessels appeared from concealment throughout the system. Some had been hiding behind asteroids. Others had been powered down in the dark spaces between planets. Still others had been disguised as civilian vessels, their true nature hidden until needed. 147 ships, Teclon whispered aboard the Concordate station. They built 54 more in 3 months? No, Hrathgar said, studying the vessel profiles. These designs are too diverse. Some are new. Others are old. They have been building this fleet for decades. They just kept most of it hidden. They showed us 93 ships and let us think that was everything. Why? Teclon asked. Why hide their strength? Because hiding strength is the first rule of warfare, Hrathgar said with something like respect in his voice. Never show your full capabilities until you must. The humans learned that lesson well. The battle unfolded with brutal efficiency. The Zeroth had numbers, but humans had planned for this exact scenario. Every ship had a role. Every captain knew their part. Railguns fired from impossible distances, accelerating tungsten slugs to speeds that made them impossible to track. Nuclear-pumped lasers created beams of coherent light, powerful enough to cut through Xerath shields. Cyber warfare teams hacked into Xerath communication networks, creating chaos and confusion. But it was the tactics that truly made the difference. Humans did not fight like the Concordat. They did not engage in orderly ship-to-ship combat. They swarmed. They flanked. They used asteroids as cover and planetary gravity for slingshot maneuvers. They sacrificed damaged ships by ramming them into enemy vessels. They fight without honor. Kresh roared as his fleet began to disintegrate. They use suicide tactics. They fight to win, his tactical officer corrected grimly. And they are winning. 30 minutes into the battle, the Xerath main fleet tried to retreat. Human ships pursued, not letting them break contact. Small, fast interceptors harried the fleeing vessels while heavier human warships delivered killing blows. "Sir, the reserve fleet is requesting orders," the tactical officer reported. "Shall they advance?" Kresh looked at his displays. His 200 ships had been reduced to 137. The humans had lost 23 vessels, but they fought with a ferocity he had never encountered. Every destroyed human ship seemed to make the others fight harder. "Signal retreat," Kresh said, his voice hollow. "Full retreat. We cannot win this." But retreating proved harder than advancing. Human ships had positioned themselves to cut off escape routes. The Xerath reserve fleet found itself engaged by human vessels that had somehow circled behind them. More ships fell. Aboard the Concordat station, Teclon could barely process what he was watching. The greatest pirate fleet in known space was being destroyed by a species that had only achieved FTL travel within the last century. "How are they doing this?" he asked. "Their technology should not be this effective." "It is not the technology," Rathgar said, his eyes never leaving the displays. "It is the strategy. It is the tactics. It is the willingness to accept casualties that would make other species surrender. Watch. Every time they lose a ship, the others do not panic. They do not break formation. They absorb the loss and continue fighting." "That is not normal," Teclon said. "No," Rathgar agreed. "It is exceptional. They are pack-bonding species, remember? When one pack member falls, the others become more determined, not less. Every loss fuels their anger." The battle lasted 2 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, the numbers were devastating. 140 Xerath ships destroyed. 60 captured. 0 escaped. Human losses. 23 ships destroyed completely. 19 heavily damaged. 4,200 personnel dead. Another 8,000 wounded. In the aftermath, human recovery vessels moved through the debris field with practiced efficiency. Rescue operations for survivors, both human and Xerath. Recovery of technology and materials. Documentation of every element of the battle for future analysis. General Mitchell stood in his command center, looking at the final reports. Around him, officers were exhausted but standing straight. They had won, but the cost had been real. 4,200 people who would never go home. "Sir," an officer said quietly, "Ambassador Teclon is requesting communication." "Put him through." Teclon's face appeared on the screen. The Vrix ambassador looked profoundly shaken. "General Mitchell, we watched the battle. I'm not sure what to say." "You could start with congratulations," Mitchell said tiredly. "We won." "You did more than win," Teclon said. "You annihilated them. A fleet that should have overwhelmed you. You destroyed or captured every single vessel." "They came to attack Earth," Mitchell said simply. "What did they expect would happen?" "I do not think they expected this. I do not think anyone could have expected this." Mitchell's expression hardened. "Ambassador, let me be clear about something. Earth does not start fights. We never have. But we always finish them. The Xerath came here to destroy us. They failed. And now everyone in the galaxy knows what happens when you threaten humanity." Teclon was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "General, I see.